How's it rockin', Dween Nation? This is the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, or share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we are here another week to discuss mock drafts, or the NFL draft. We are going to put in our predictions for the first round, thanks to the NFL mock draft database simulator. Last week was a lot of fun, and with all the news and the reports, this is happening. We are recording this as of right before legal tampering on Monday. So there's going to be some changes, but we will adjust that next week. But after everything that's gone on this past week and some moves that we could discuss, I'm ready to get into all of this. But before we do, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I'm doing great. We're on our third mock draft, and I'm really curious to see, once these mock drafts are all said and done, right when everyone gets drafted, I want to see how close we were to nailing these first five picks, because I think, Justin, that this draft is going to be a pretty all time generational draft. I think we can look back in 10 years, 15 years, and say, you know what, there were some gems in this draft. Not everybody, but I would say a good 7 to 8 players that'll go in this first round will definitely have some impact on the league going forward. But definitely, Justin, excited to dive in, see what our picks are, what we can pick today are different from last week and the week before, and this is very exciting. It's nothing really like draft season.
No, I completely agree. I'll let you this time. You will be our odds picker, and I'll be the evens picker. So I'll give you first pick. What do you think is going on for the Titans at 1?
Justin, you know what? I've come to conclusion that Cam Ward is number one pick overall. He should be the consensus there. And if I'm Tennessee, I'm thinking about Tennessee, and I just don't think they should trade out. Really, is no point about it. There's not really a college player that next year that 3 years ago where we saw Caleb Williams win the Heisman, we knew, Justin, that he was going to play another year. So it's not like you can tank that following season and get a Caleb Williams, right, Justin? A Trevor Lawrence, a Joe Burrow. Even, really people didn't know about Joe Burrow before his last year at LSU. So it's like, I think that Tennessee should just go with quarterback right now. You got Calvin Ridley, you got Tony Pollard, you got Callahan, who's an offensive coach. And I think that, you're in a division with CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, AR. Let's see what he does. So let's go Cam Ward there. He's the best quarterback in this draft, no doubt. Possibly the best player, because I do love me some Travis Hunter and some Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Actually, that's my favorite pick there for the Titans to go with one. They could trade back, but they really just you need quarterback. You're not going to flip around your season with as much as you love some of these guys at the top. I don't think Abdul Carter is going to start giving you 6-7 more wins than what you had last year. I think if Cam Ward hits, you got a franchise building piece for the next decade. So I like that there. For 2, Cleveland. This is tough. And in our last draft, we had Shedeur sliding, but I really am convinced Cleveland's going at quarterback. And unless they trade back, which they could do here, I'm going to have them sticking at number 2, and I have them going with Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. And, obviously there's like kind of a background or thought that why would the Sanders family want to go to Cleveland? It's not like a big market, but I think that they might realize that they can establish and create this big market behind their name. And I think Shedeur and Cleveland, I think it's a good match mixed together. Stefanski with a really solid pocket passer, I think it would be good things. What do you have, though, for the Giants at 3?
Well, Justin, I seen that with the Giants. They just watched this, postseason. They seen their former running back Saquon Barkley win a Super Bowl, and I think that Justin, they're going to want to get the running back of the future. Last draft, I went Travis Hunter at first pick with the trade up. This draft, I actually like the idea of Ashton Jeanty being a Giant. You know what I'm saying? To get the running back, they might have Sam Darnold. They already have Malik Neighbors. And I think that, like I just mentioned, they just saw Saquon Barkley, a running back that they drafted with the second pick overall in 2018, go out and win the Super Bowl in his first year, win Offensive Player of the Year, break records. And I feel like New York is going to want to get their get back. Singletary is not going to cut it. I like Tyron Tracy, but, is he really the guy there? So let's go with Jeanty there being the franchise running back for whatever quarterback the Giants end up getting.
I think that's super interesting. I mean, they have Tracy, as you mentioned, but like Tracy's nothing. He had some good moments, but definitely is not a franchise running back. Genty would fit that bill. So that is an interesting play. I like it. Let's move to New England here, where they're, to me, now they have, I think they have a really solid plethora of picks here. I think they could go a number of ways. They could go Travis Hunter. They could go Abdul Carter. They can go Will Campbell. I even could see a Tet McMillan. But for me, I'm going with Abdul Carter. I think that they're going to want that generational piece on the defensive side. Obviously, they got Christian Gonzalez in the secondary. Bring in a really good pass rusher for Mike Vrabel, defensive-minded coach, to really start making that defense scary again, like it was, 4 or 5 years ago. But that's what I got there for the Patriots. Who do you have for Jacksonville at 5?
Justin, this makes this a no-brainer for Jacksonville. They just traded Christian Kirk to Houston. Obviously, they got rid of Evan Ingram, so they need some targets there. And their defense isn't really that good, so they can go ahead and draft Travis Hunter, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. They can figure it out during the offseason, during training camp, during rookie camp, where they want to have Travis. If it's at the wide receiver position, at the cornerback, I think he can definitely bring some life, some juice to Jacksonville, and have Liam Cohen saying Travis Hunter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess I like it.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. That's a perfect spot for him. They need corner bad. They need wide receiver bad. He fits both that. I'd be really interested to see how Liam Cohen, smart offensive mind, could use him on the offense. Moving to 6 with the Raiders. They have now traded for Geno Smith. If everyone is not aware, Geno Smith is now going to be the starting quarterback for the Raiders for this season, and I would expect at least a couple seasons. So that means I think that Pete Carroll and this Raiders team is going to focus on the offense at this pick here. So to me, that leaves you with Tet McMillan or Will Campbell. And I think they're going to go with Tet McMillan. They have Brock Bowers, yes. They have Jacoby Myers, solid. But they really need an imposing wide receiver that I think Tet McMillan fits the bill for. And I would love that for Geno Smith. Start, go from, DK and Lockett and JSN. But now you're leaving, Seattle, and you think maybe you're joining an offense that's not as powerful. But hey, get yourself Tet McMillan. I think Jacoby Myers is a really solid wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3, and then you got one of the best tight ends in football in Brock Bowers. So I have Tet McMillan that are the Raiders, but what does that leave for the Jets?
Justin, there's so many scenarios for me, guys, at Dwayne Nation. I want you guys to know that I love Jalen Milroe to the Jets. However, we did that in the last draft. I kind of want to shake things up just a little bit. I'm looking at the tight end depth chart here for the Jets. I think you might be knowing where I'm going here, Justin. It's Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, and it's not really guys that are so impressive. If the Jets end up getting their franchise quarterback somehow in free agency or in the draft, they're going to need someone to go to throw to and to keep Garrett Wilson happy. So let's look at the tight ends, Justin. I want to go with Tyler Warren. I think that's some juice the Jets offense need. You already got Breece Hall, who's going to be a stud next year, Justin. I'm predicting that Breece Hall is going to have a great year in fantasy. He's going to have a great rushing season. Garrett Wilson, hopefully he can stay there. They need a tight end. They need to do what Vegas was able to do last year to add, and they drafted tight end. You mentioned Brock Bowers just a few moments ago. And give me some Tyler Warren. I think he can mix well with the Jets. Whatever quarterback they end up getting, let's say for some crazy reason, Darnold returns to the Jets, right? Well, hey, I think he has him a solid wide receiver and a solid tight end 1.
Yeah, no, I really like this Warren pick. For one, he's a great blocker, so that helps in the offensive side. And he's obviously the best receiving tight end in this draft. And I've heard already reports that doesn't look like they're going to re-sign Tyler Conklin. He's a free agent, so that he might be on the way out, which leaves a very depleted tight end room, which it kind of was nothing shiny in the first place with Tyler Conklin. And the other rumor I was hearing over the last day or two is that the Jets are interested in Justin Fields as their possible quarterback for this season. And that would be a really interesting combination. Cole Kmet and Justin Fields had a really solid connection in Chicago a couple years ago. So I think that that's a really great pick there for the Jets. Moving to the Panthers, they're going defense in this draft. I think they really want to build there. They could go wide receiver. They really improved their offensive line last year, which makes me think they won't go that direction. And then, Mason Graham staring me in the face, but their interior defensive line isn't what is really struggling on that defense. It is the edge rushing side of it, and I think that they're going to go for a guy that he stole the combine, he stole the Senior Bowl, he's rising up everybody's draft boards. I'm hearing he's a set it and forget it top 12 pick, and now he's going to go here at 8. Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. The biggest question marks around him is he didn't have he wasn't a stat stuffer kind of player. He wasn't getting those double-digit sack seasons. But if you just watch, he was able to get pressures, cause fumbles, and really hurry the quarterback. So I think Shamar Stewart there would be a great piece with Derek Brown on the defensive line. But what do we have now turning to the New Orleans Saints?
Justin, there are so many ways the Saints can go here. One of my favorites could be going for Jalen Milroe. I don't think that happens, but they can also go for Mason Graham, Will Campbell. But I'm gonna go with them, kind of going with the hometown guy there, the in-state guy, Will Campbell, to kind of start building that offensive line there. Look, the Saints, they have a lot of issues: quarterback, offensive line. Maybe you can say a tight end, maybe like a running back issue because Kamara is aging. Justin, he has been in the league now for nearly 10 seasons, and he's got a lot of mileage on him. So obviously there's a lot of things they need to work on there. But let's start with the offensive line. Maybe you got yourself a quarterback in the second or third round, maybe a wide receiver. Maybe you get some free agents. But let's start kind of beefing up this offensive line for Kellen Moore in that offense.
No, I like that a lot. I think Kellen Moore and the GM for the Saints will dive their money at this pick to an offensive player. Their O-line is getting old. It's really, they have Talise Fuaga, who they drafted last year in the first round. But other than that, it's really nothing too crazy. Ryan Ramczyk. But I like that a lot there. Will Campbell, obviously, as you mentioned, an LSU guy staying in Louisiana. I like that there. The Bears. The Bears told me a lot this week. They traded for 2 starting offensive linemen. They traded for Joe Thuney and Jonah Williams, which means I don't think they're going to target the offensive line in this draft. Now, I think the Bears would be really upset because I think that their intention is maybe thinking they can get Ashton Jeanty at 10. But with him being gone, I don't think they're going to want to pull the trigger on another running back this high up. So I think they're going to have to turn their attention to the defense, where I think that they go with edge rusher Mykel Williams from Georgia. Get yourself a Georgia guy to be on this offense or be on this defense and really wreck it with Montez Sweat. And I think that's a good move for the Bears. What about San Francisco, though? They traded away Deebo Samuel. It seems like it might become, this 49ers, solid team might be coming down, but what do they do to fix it in this draft?
Justin, I want to say that I love Jalen Walker, and I think that he's a great fit for the 49ers to play alongside Nick Bosa. But let's go ahead and do it. Let's get the wide receiver, the Ohio State product, to replace Deebo, Emeka Egbuka. There could be a chance, Justin, draft night that Ayuk is already traded as well. And so that definitely, if they want to, pay Brock Purdy that big contract, they need to know that they're going to have a wide receiver that he can throw to. Because Kittle's getting old. Pearsall, he's a rookie, he's still a little unproven. And they need to build that offense because we're not really sure how much that offense is going to look with McCaffrey potentially missing the first couple weeks. They need some more offense. Let's go with the Egbuka here.
I like that. I like that a lot. I would really like the connection with Purdy and Egbuka. And I think with Ayuk's uncertainty, I think that Egbuka can be maybe a day one, starter, day one wide receiver 1 for this team. So I like that a lot there. For the Cowboys, they miss out on Jeanty. Could they go wide receiver? Possibly. But I think that they're going to want to rebuild what used to be their strongest strength for years, which was their offensive line. Obviously, Zach Martin retired. So I think they go O-line here, and they go Kelvin Banks out of Texas. He is one of the best guards. It says he's a tackle, but he really plays guard for the Longhorns. And I think he is a one-for-one replacement as of right now for Zach Martin, where they can slide him in to help, support Dak Prescott in the future. But now with that O-lineman being taken, what do the Dolphins do with that?
Justin, I absolutely agree with you with what Dallas is doing. I think Miami's going to do the same thing as well, Justin. Anytime, Justin, we're doing a mock draft and Miami is on the board in the first round, it's got to be offensive line, maybe defensive line, but Justin has got to be offensive line. And I'm going with Tyler Booker out of Alabama. You can't go wrong with those Bama guys. And Justin, if you want to protect Tua, if you want him to play any normal amount of years as a normal quarterback, you got to get him offensive line, Justin. I mean, the past 2 out of the 3 years, he's been, he's had some scary injuries that we've never seen before, and you've just got to protect them. So it's got to be interior offensive line, the first 2 rounds for Miami, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. That is a big need for the Dolphins. They need to protect Tua. Poor guy keeps getting injured. Yeah, I think that's prime number one idea for the Dolphins is to do that, address the offensive line. For the Colts here, I think that their favorite, ideal situation is that they get Tyler Warren at 14. Obviously, he is gone. So we're going to turn our attention to either the offensive line or the secondary. And I'm going to look in the secondary. Now, unfortunately, with Will Johnson, there's been some news. I think he's fighting through an injury. I don't know how much that drops his draft stock. I think he's still a set it and forget it first rounder. But I think this other cornerback's going to jump him, and that is Jahdae Barron from the Texas Longhorns. A really good lockdown corner that I think is day one starter for the Colts in the secondary. But yeah, what do you think, and what do you got for the next pick?
Justin, you stole it right out of my hand. I said Jahdae Barron is going to go to Atlanta because Atlanta, for the second time in 3 years, they're going to get themselves another guy to Texas like Bijan that's going to be a star, but you stole him. But there's another guy that plays defense as well that I'm a big fan of, who's played Texas twice this year and was a factor, and that is Jalen Walker out of Georgia. Justin, I was able to see him in person this past college season. He was all over the field in the first matchup against the Longhorns. I saw it in person. It was every single time. I would normally say he was jumping off the screen, watching it, but Justin, he was jumping off the field. I mean, literally, as soon as the ball snapped, he was pressuring Ewers, pressuring Arch. That first, Arch played in the middle of the game, and then they brought back Ewers. If you guys remember, this guy is a beast. He's got some Von Miller potential for sure. He's a stronger Von Miller. And I'm really, really love to see where he goes. He is a great pass rusher for sure.
No, I love that. I love that a lot. I mean, and the versatility that Walker can bring to the Falcons. He can play linebacker. He can play edge rusher.
Yeah.
So we'll see where they place him there in Atlanta. For the Arizona Cardinals, they have a very similar set of needs to as the Falcons do. So I think they're going to address edge rusher or interior D line here. But I'm gonna default and go for Mike Green out of Marshall. I know Marshall's not the shiniest of school names, but Mike Green has been stealing the eyes of so many scouts, especially at the Senior Bowl. He was the best player, and that included a Senior Bowl with Shamar Stewart, who is also going crazy. But Mike Green was a guy who didn't lose a snap to an O lineman. He even, tossed over Josh Connerly, who's also a first-round pick in the Senior Bowl. So Mike Green is a guy that's going to be in this range in the draft. And I think he's going to be a great pick for Arizona. What do you have, though, for the next pick?
Justin, as much as I want Cincinnati to have a dominant offensive line, I just think that with this past week, you had Sam Hubbard retiring and Trey Hendrickson requested a trade. So now, Justin, not only is this defense that was the reason why they didn't make the playoffs, not only goes from bad to worse, it's probably going to get even worse. So I'd say you just save this team now. You spent money on the offensive side with T. Higgins. Now it's time to flip with the draft and go defensive line here. Let's go Mason Graham out of Michigan. But Justin, I just want you to know, and I want Dewey Nation to know, nobody wants a team to have a better O-line than I want for Cincinnati and, of course, my Texans. But, I mean, I just think that with the people retiring and leaving Cincinnati, they got to go D-line. It's a no-brainer.
Oh, yeah. The Bengals were one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year, and now Sam Hubbard, their starting right end, retires, and then Trey Hendrickson is seeking a trade.
Yeah.
Those are literally their best two defensive linemen. For an already putrid defense. So, yeah, they need that. Mason Graham would be a perfect landing spot for Cincinnati. Going to Seattle here. They don't have a quarterback.
Oh.
Makes me interested in a possible landing spot for him. They also need O-line. So that's the discussion I think that will be in the Seattle building. Do they think they can wait do they have Sam Darnold at this point? Which I'm really not a fan of that idea that they traded away Geno Smith just to sign Sam Darnold. So I'm not going to believe in that. And I'm going to jump towards this pick here with Jackson Dart as the new Seattle Seahawks quarterback, which, well, I'm only going to give credit to my brother Genoa here because we had a early bold predictions episode, and that was the bold prediction that Jackson Dart is going to land in Seattle and make some noise. But yeah, what do you think with Jackson Dart as his
Justin, he just feels very Seattle. He just like I mentioned, Seattle, they're the Pacific, Northwest. It's like LA, but with constant rain, with 80% more rain. He's got the surfer look. He just feels Seattle. The colors of him playing in Lumen Field, in Seattle, it just feels very Jackson Dart. I don't know. But I love that pick. I would say though, Justin, I do like Jalen Milroe just a little bit. Just a little bit better than Jackson Dart. But hey, great pick. I think he has the arm. Jackson Dart to Jackson Smith and Jigba would be very cool for marketing in Seattle for sure. For Tampa, Justin, things get actually a little interesting because I want to pick linebacker. I want to pick defense line. I want to pick corner because it's Todd Bowles. He's a defensive guy. But you know what, Justin? I want to make this kind of interesting. We're fantasy guys. Let's go wide receiver here, and let's go Luther Burden. Look, I get it. They got Mike Evans. They might sign Chris Godwin. But, Justin, what are the chances they don't bring back Godwin? What if Godwin actually wants to test the field? That could be happening. I think Tampa's a little hurt by that, and it's kind of like they want to rebound quickly. So they go to the draft and they get Luther Burden. I think that'd be a good target for Baker Mayfield. I got it for the future. Mike Evans has a few more years in this league as being great. His career, his Hall of Fame career, will no doubt be wraps in the next 2 to 3 years. So they're going to need to have that next, pass catcher there in Tampa Bay, and I think Luther Burden is the guy.
No, I think 100% if Chris Godwin's not in the building after, March 31st, that this is going to be the move the Tampa Bay Bucks go for, because that would be perfect to kind of make sure you stay in this competition, even though the NFC South's not the strongest division. But hey, the Panthers are getting better, the Falcons are getting better, the Saints are the Saints, but the Tampa Bay, if they lose Chris Godwin, which I know they didn't have the back half of the year and they still made the playoffs, Luther Burden would be really good, a good spot there. And I think with that pick, Luther Burden going to Tampa, it's going to make Denver want to rush in the card to get a wide receiver as well, because that is something they desperately need. And I'm going with Matthew Golden out of Texas. And, it really hurts my soul to have had 3 picks in this draft where I'm picking Texas Longhorns. I did it with Kelvin Banks, Jahdae Barron, and Matthew Golden. But hey, that means that these guys are good. These are good landing spots for them, because Denver, they have Cortland Sutton, yes, but it really falls off a cliff after that. Marvin Mims is a deep threat, but, hasn't proven anything. Troy Franklin, the same story. Lil Jordan Humphrey or Devon Vele, not enough to really get me excited. But Matthew Golden, a first-round wide receiver, a guy who was the winner of the combine at his position, in my opinion. I think this is a perfect landing spot for him. Where would you kind of view him, though, if he lands at Denver in fantasy?
Justin, I would absolutely love it, because think about it this way. Bo Nix was able to have a fantastic year with Cortland Sutton, just Cortland Sutton. Then we had some flashes for like Marvin Mims and, other guys here and there. But in a Sean Payton offense, who's had some really good receivers, you had Marcus Colston, who can forget Michael Thomas, historical couple years. We miss Michael Thomas, man. He could still be playing. But I think that in a Denver offense there with Bo Nix in his second year, I love it. I love it with Matthew Golden. But Justin, I'm going to go with a very big hot pick here. Ooh. Now, my hypothetical thinking is Justin Fields does go to New York. And Mike Tomlin knows, man, I probably only have a year, 2 years with Russell at best. Who knows if he can be back to the Seattle Russell Wilson. So you know what, Justin? Mike Tomlin goes to the quarterbacks and gets him Jalen Milroe. I think it works. The rushing ability works in that offense. Obviously, if Najee were to sign somewhere else, maybe they can go running back in free agency. Maybe they can get an Aaron Jones. Maybe they can draft the guy and have some really cool read option package there with Jalen Milroe. Or it's kind of like a, Lamar Jackson, first year, playing behind Flacco. It's kind of like a Jalen Hurts playing behind a Hurt Wentz in his first year as a rookie. He's got packages, and I think that he ends up becoming a starter. That's the thing in this league now, Justin. So I think Jalen Milroe, Fields goes to New York or he goes to another team, right? And I think that Mike Tomlin, he loves Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a great guy, but hey, Russell Wilson's been in this league for some time, and I think that Pittsburgh is going to want to get their franchise as Cleveland has just drafted Shador right in this draft. You obviously got Burrow and Lamar in that division. Tomlin knows he needs a quarterback. He's tired of being exited out in the first round. Milroe's the guy. He fits the Pittsburgh kind of swagger. And Steelers get themselves a franchise quarterback.
He kind of does feel Pittsburgh. I kind of completely agree with that. I think this would be really interesting. And the good thing for Milroe is his offseason didn't start very well. He didn't have a great Senior Bowl, but his combine was really solid. So I think he's rising up the charts for NFL teams. So I think this would be an interesting spot for Pittsburgh. Hopefully they're not, getting any PTSD. Obviously they picked 20, 5 years ago when they drafted Kenny Pickett. They're kind of in that same range, so hopefully they're not getting any whiffs of that. But anyway, moving to the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, former coach. There's a handful of Michigan guys here. Obviously, you see on the screen Will Johnson, Kenneth Grant, but you also can scroll down a little and see yourself with Colston Loveland. And I think they're going to land themselves one of these three guys. They need defense. They need the defensive line because they don't have Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack any longer.
Oh,
but those are edge rushers more. I don't think Kenneth Grant will fit into that. So I'm gonna have the Chargers going with Colston Loveland, really securing that offense. Obviously you have Ladd, and I really am convinced they sign one solid veteran wide receiver. So you'll have those two, and then you'll get yourself with a really solid tight end. So I have Colston Loveland as a Charger. What do you have, though, for Green Bay at 23?
Justin, my prediction is, I hope I'm right. I'm going to say this every mock draft. Green Bay is rather drafting an offensive lineman, a linebacker, or a D lineman, maybe a corner. I don't think they really go crazy into offense. I think they get a defensive player or an offensive lineman. That's what I think. There's many good choices at this point in time, but not to mention that they could be parting ways with Jair Alexander, Justin. So Will Johnson is a good pick here. But just to make it kind of interesting, I'm going to go with James Pierce there, being drafted as their edge rusher. I think they do go defensive line. I think they just want a pretty star-dominant defensive player that they feel in their eyes where they pick at 23. They're not going to give up their pick. They're not going to make some flashy trade. They're going to just do just the right pick and not, mortgage their future on one player.
No, I think that's really interesting. James Pierce, the only reason he's kind of dropped here is he didn't have the most stellar senior season, and there's been some questions about character. But hey, when you're up in Lambeau for a year, I think they're going to breed it in you. It's going to be cold. Going from Tennessee to Wisconsin, I think that'd be a good move for the Packers. For the Vikings, they have a lot at stake here with in free agency. They're possibly losing a lot of their secondary. Byron Murphy's a free agent. A couple of other guys, their names are slipping my mind. They're free agents. So I think they're going to address the cornerback position, and they're going to, stop this slide that Will Johnson's been on and bring him to Minnesota. The only thing that could scare me for the Texans, ahead of them is hopefully the Minnesota Vikings aren't looking to O-line, because I would love to snag a good O-lineman for Houston. But Minnesota, I think, Brian Flores wanting to continue to build that defense. We'll get Will Johnson here from Michigan.
Yeah, I honestly, Justin, I like it. I think it'd be cool if they went with Starks there. Malachi Starks out of Georgia. I think that'd be sick. But Will Johnson concerns me a little bit. I think we mentioned to talk about his injury. But I still, regardless, Brian Flores is able to make that work, though, with that defense. They had a great season. For me, it's a pleasure to be, picking for my Houston Texans. And I got to go with a offensive lineman here at Ohio State to block for my quarterback out of Ohio State. And it's really interesting because I love me some Josh Simmons, but let's go with Donovan Jackson. I think they need a little bit more interior linemen. Obviously, on the outside, they do have Laramie Tunsil. Who knows if they'll be able to keep him. But let's go with Donovan Jackson. I think that fits the Texans. Justin, I think for my Texans, just the same as Cincinnati, we really need to put a lot of focus in the draft and in free agency and in the offensive line.
Yeah, and he is a Houston native, surprisingly enough. Went to my middle school. I mean, Donovan Jackson's that guy. So he is a Cypress native, so he's 20, 30 minutes out from NRG. So I would like to see that homecoming for Donovan Jackson. for the Rams, I think they're also going to dip their toe in the offensive line room and get themselves Armand Mimbo from Missouri, one of the probably most underrated offensive linemen in this class. I think I think honestly by April 26th, 28th, he might be a top 15 pick. Like I really believe that he might be the best offensive lineman in the class, even over Will Campbell. I have some really high praise for Armand Mimbo. But what does Baltimore have rolling out at 27?
Justin, they definitely go defensive here because I see a lot of great players here. With Baltimore, you can argue that this was one of the worst defenses they've ever had under John Harbaugh. And I think that they're going to need to revitalize this defense with a linebacker. I do like Roquan Smith. And they did lose, was it Patrick Queen to Pittsburgh, I believe, or was it vice versa? I think.
No, that's right. Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I think they want to add a little bit because they did draft Nate Wiggins. They did draft Kyle Hamilton. I want to go Starks here as tempting it is. But Justin, let's go with Ja'ad Campbell. I think that with the Ravens, they need their next Ray Lewis, their next quarterback of the defense, their next ferocious linebacker that can, be their, Fred Warner, that can be their Luke Kuechly. And I think that Ja'ad Campbell is the guy to do it. I love it out of Bama. And these Bama defensive players, sometimes when they go to Baltimore, they're a huge success, and I really like it there. And let's go with that. And I think Baltimore now can start building on a great defense to lead Lamar Jackson to eventually, hopefully, a Super Bowl.
Yeah, we hope to see that, and I would really like that. Ja'ad Campbell tag team with Roquan Smith. For the Lions, I think they're going to attack edge rusher, and Nick Scorton is there, and he's a huge edge rusher that can complement Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. I think Detroit's going to want to address that and possibly the secondary. Obviously, they have Brian Branch, so I don't think they need safety, but they could go corner if they lose Carlton Davis. But I think that as of right now, edge rusher is what's here. And there's really, the cornerbacks at this spot, Siobhan Ravel, Maxwell Harrison are really good, but I think they're early second rounders. They could creep into the first round by the time we get to April, but I'll stick with Scorton here. Anyways, what do you got, though, for, Washington?
Dan Campbell, though, former Aggie, drafting an Aggie. That's
right.
Very full circle. But I'm going to go with Malachi Starks to finally be picked here to Washington. They need to stop those elite wide receivers in that, division. You got CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the Super Bowl champion Devontae Smith. And, that division is packed with wide receivers there. Obviously, Neighbors is there. Maybe Travis Hunter. So we're going to beef up that secondary in Washington. Let's definitely get Malachi Starks.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. I think the only other direction they probably could go is DT, just because they cut Jonathan Allen.
Yeah.
But I like that there. They could totally fill in that safety room. Going to Buffalo, though, I think they're going to stop the slide that Kenneth Grant's been on and get a good interior defensive lineman to pair with Ed Oliver. Buffalo's, I think that's where they're going to go in this draft. Mainly is the defense, maybe some, skill positions as well. But I think Kenneth Grant's a good spot here. What do you have for the Chiefs?
The Chiefs, I think it's a no-brainer here. They go Josh Simmons. They're rebuilding. They're making sure that offense is getting back together. Obviously, Xavier Worthy. There's some issues that was reported this morning. It's okay. They bring back Hollywood Brown. They want to beef up that offensive line. They're going to see Philly at some point, I believe, again, and they're definitely going to be thinking about how they were being pass rush all Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That'd be perfect. And they just traded away Joe Thuney, so
yeah,
I'm going to need to continue to address the O-line. Last pick, in the first round of this draft, and the last pick in this episode that we're going to discuss, I think that the Eagles are going to go with interior O-line. They don't really need safety help. They still got C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They don't need interior D-line help. They got Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. So I think they go with Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, one of the highlights of the Senior Bowl. I feel like you're going to hear me harp on the Senior Bowl winners because they turn into really great NFL players, and Gray Zabel was one of those guys. So I'd like him to go there and replace a possible leaving free agent in Mekhi Becton, who was, right there at right guard in the Super Bowl. So, Dween Nation, that is our draft for the first round. What is this, 3.0 mock draft? We'll have another one next week. Also, stay tuned because March Madness is right around the corner. So we're going to have some predictions there. But thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes. And Jano, send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation, this was our third mock draft. We'll be doing one every week leading up to the NFL draft there in April that will be held in Lambeau Field in Green Bay. Very interesting venue there, Justin. So thank you guys for watching. We're so excited to unveil this draft. March Madness is coming soon. Sports here at Doing Sports is just heating up there. We're so excited. So thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always, peace.